Hello, my name is Melissa and I'm 22. At Gracegate, I work in the children's ministry with the primary school age, and I also work as a leader for Radiate, which is intermediate age. Some of my interests, I like to play netball and do acting. I also love going to the beach and kayaking. Sick. I grew up in a non-religious home, and so before I came to Christ, I found it was hard to discover him. There was a few times throughout my life where I found myself being drawn to him. When I was, I think 14 or something, my friend introduced me to going to a youth group, but it was just not what I was expecting, and I kind of freaked out about it. I remember watching like the religious channel and finding there was this one lady that I watched and I was just like, oh, she's so cool. But I kept getting distracted, and so I just ended up not taking it any further. Not that I really went to church or really tried that hard, but I thought it just wasn't for me. And so I just haven't explored it any further. Before I found Christ, I found myself really angry and like holding a lot of resentment, because I considered myself a pretty kind and caring person, and so I'd always do things for people, and I found myself kind of spiraling into a point where I was only really doing things for people because like for the wrong reasons. And so when people would do things to me, or they would do something that I found disrespectful, or I'd remember all the times that I let things go and didn't address things when things were wrong that someone was doing to me, I found myself validating myself that it was okay to get angry. But when I get angry, I'll just end up lashing out and just being really unhealthy with how I was addressing people. You know that what you're saying is wrong, but you still tell yourself that you have right. Say whatever you want and however you feel, and it's just going to be okay. But it never turned out that way. It was horrible. I just didn't know how to process anything that I was feeling, and I just felt like I was just always hard done by. I moved up to Whangaproa several months ago, and so I found a job in childcare from hospitality, which was so much better. I started working at Skids at Kingsway, which is, Kingsway is a Christian school. And I just found being in that environment where it was all these Christian people, and it was just such a great environment. It kind of gave me the license to explore what I couldn't really before. I just felt like I could learn so much more, and it made more sense rather than just picking up a Bible and be like, where do I start? From there, I found that I was a little short on money, and so I wanted to find another job, but I didn't really want to go back into hospitality, and so I just looked up childcare, and literally Gracegate was the only job that came up, and I was just like, oh shoot. And I was so scared to apply, but I was just like, oh, this is definitely a way that can kind of bring me closer to God, an excuse to kind of be in that environment. And yeah, I was so nervous and I had no idea what to expect, but I thought that when I was going to show up that everyone's just going to be like, we know that you're not, like, that you haven't been Christian like your whole life, and I thought they were just going to know that I was a fake or whatever. But then my interview with Zalia and Wes, it was amazing, and it actually made me feel like I just was like, oh, I can breathe, like that. It was so great. All those sort of things being put into my life, and then me and Sam, my partner, started going to church and all that sort of stuff, and from there it just flourished and grew from there, and it's quite amazing how God will put those little things in your life to just help you grow. So one of the first people that really helped me with my faith was Sam, my partner. He grew up, his mum is Christian. He always believed, but he kind of steered away. So when we both ended up finding Christ together and starting our journey together. So it was quite cool how we were just discovering all these things at the same time, and we started going to church together and watching like the Bible Project. I found that really helpful to understand everything so much better, because when you watch it, you just makes more sense if you've seen a visual representation of it. When I would find out stuff at Gracegate or with my boss Rochelle or something like that, like I would always tell Sam about it and would kind of educate each other, or when he would find things out. So we were just growing and flourishing together, which I found really helpful, because when I go home we just talk it out and like, you know, have those in-depth conversations that you kind of need, and reviewing anything that we'd learn from church or something like that. Another person is my boss Rochelle from Skids. She just taught me so much. She's really knowledgeable. We'd be at work or doing something, and I just ask her a question about God or the Bible or something, and she would literally just stop what she was doing and just spend an hour or 2 hours just talking to me about it. No pressure at all. Even when I first started kind of discovering, and I was kind of asking questions here and there just to kind of feel things out, she just was no pressure, and her approach to it I found really helpful, because she was just like, well, this is what I believe and this is what I've found out, but whether you believe that or not, totally cool, and I found that approach really helped me. In the past, people have been quite abrasive and like really quite rushed towards me, and when you're trying to find something out for the first time, it's quite intimidating. You're like, no, get away from me. So she was definitely a huge part, and still is. Like, she's still teaching me so much. The last one that is really kind of rounded it out is Gracegate. Gracegate is kind of like my safe place, because when I come to Gracegate, it's just like I can talk to anybody on staff or anyone who comes here. I feel like I can go to them with anything. Anytime I was dealing with some emotional stuff, anytime I was dealing with anything in my life that I really needed help with, or any questions that I had, and I could go to anybody and anyone would just be there to help me and talk to me, and it was just so calming and relaxing to be able to have an environment where everyone is welcome. And a lot of time with our big group meetings, when we'd have all of our staff together, that's where I found the biggest learning, because we'd always have some great activity or a verse that we'll talk in depth about, or there will be a story, and we'd just have these really in-depth conversations. The way that everyone would talk about God and Jesus, and it just made sense to me. The people at Gracegate just resembled what I think Christians should be. They showed me what I want to be, and I learned from so many people, like Zalia and Wes. Like, I could always talk to them. Geordie and Volta and Shanae, I mean, she would pray for me all the time. Like, anytime I came to her, she'd pray for me, and like, she's just the best person. Before I found Christ, I was quite angry, like I'd said before. I'm still working on that, and I'm still developing, because you can't just flick a switch and then you're solved. No one's perfect, but I find that I'm just handling situations so much better. I find myself just having better coping mechanisms and ways I'm actually processing my emotions rather than holding so much resentment. Learning about Jesus and his teachings, and just thinking like, what would Jesus do? Really is the main thing. I find with a world where everyone is quite selfish and vindictive, it's kind of easy to be led astray and think, well, this person did this to me, so I can do this. I'm kind of growing into the person that I thought I was. I thought I was like kind and caring and amazing, and I was like, oh yes. But I find now I'm actually growing into that person, and Jesus is constantly pushing me, you know what I mean? Like, and I find he's actually making me take that extra step or go that extra mile, you know, where they say about don't go 1 mile, go 2. And actually making me realize I'm like, I can actually do so much better. Like, I was just coasting through, like thinking that I was all good because I was doing like slightly better than everyone else, but I wasn't actually trying. Whereas I'm actually find myself actually caring and like actually making that extra effort, you know. I find myself processing it in a whole other way and just choosing to attack it with love and kindness, genuine love and kindness, and actually trying to understand people rather than picking and choosing when I want to be kind and picking and choosing when I want to be understanding and just calling myself understanding. With baptism, it's that commitment. It's that saying, yeah, this is who I am, this is what I'm committing to. I love God, and I found that I needed to get baptized because I didn't feel whole. And I feel like anyone who feels like they're not perfect enough or they're not good enough to get baptized yet, it's like, that's not true at all. I thought that I needed to have everything all set, and I needed to be the perfect Christian before I could get baptized, and that I had it in my head that God would reject me in some way, or it wouldn't work properly or something like that. There's like a whole bunch of steps in your faith journey, and even after baptism, you're not gonna magically be solved or anything like that, but it's just that extra step and commitment, and there's gonna be so much more working out that's gonna happen in my life and other people's lives, but it's just that commitment in your faith, and that you're saying, this is me and this is what I'm gonna do. I don't know, I'm all in, and I'm excited. I'm amped to get it done. Today I'm going public with my faith, and am I looking in the camera when I say this? Okay. Today I'm going public with my faith and getting baptized because I believe Jesus is my Lord and Savior, and I want everyone to know who he is and why he is so important to me.